I swear this printer has a personal vendetta against me. It only jams when I need to print something urgent, only runs out of ink when my deadline is in 5 minutes, and only flashes that smug little red light at me, mocking me when I'm already on the verge of throwing it out the window. So naturally, I did the mature thing, I slapped a post-it on it. This printer hates me. I'm not mad, just disappointed. And then I walked away, sipping my lukewarm coffee like I hadn't just passive-aggressively broken down in front of the office's most untrustworthy piece of machinery. I didn't expect anyone to read it, let alone reply. But when I came in the next morning, there it was, another sticky note, in different handwriting, stuck right next to mine. Maybe it has taste. Or maybe you keep yelling at it. I stared at it, blinking. Then I laughed. Actually laughed. Someone was brave. And apparently witty. Which, in this place, a rarity. I looked around the office like I was suddenly in a mystery movie. Who was this mysterious reply guy or girl with the snarky retort? Accounting? Nah. Not enough creativity. Tech support? Too literal. The new graphic designer? Max something? Maybe. He'd transferred from the downtown branch last month. Tall, quiet, always buried in sketches and playlists. I hadn't spoken to him yet. I'd been too busy dealing with clients, deadlines, and the death trap that was our shared printer. But I wasn't going to let mystery post-it person win. So I grabbed a fresh note, scribbled quickly, and stuck it right below theirs. You sound like the kind of person who names their plants and then forgets to water them. Two can play at this game. Over the next week, the printer became our unofficial battlefield. Our back-and-forth sticky warfare escalated from printer insults to general workplace commentary. Me, if Brenda steals my yogurt again, I'm filing a police report. Them, justice for Lena's yogurt. I volunteer as tribute to catch the thief. Me, why does this coffee taste like sadness? Them, you mean it's not supposed to? It was stupid. Silly. Completely anonymous. And addictive. Every morning, I rushed to the printer not for my printouts but to see if they'd written back. My day didn't start until I read their note. It was like office gossip, but clever. Secret. Ours. I started keeping their best replies folded in the back of my notebook. I told myself it was for the laughs. Nothing more. But if I'm being honest, somewhere between the sarcasm and the ink smudges, I started looking forward to them more than I should. And maybe, just maybe, I kind of hoped the reply guy would turn out to be the quiet one with the shy smile and the worn leather sketchbook. But that was ridiculous. Right? I almost missed the elevator because I was too busy rereading yesterday's post-it reply. If Mondays had a flavor, it would be this coffee. I laughed so hard I snorted in front of the intern. Dignity? I never had it to begin with. Now, I lingered at the printer longer than necessary, pretending to examine the ink tray. The truth? I was waiting. Watching. Who was this mystery smart mouth? Every day, a new post-it appeared before 9 a.m., sharp. Same handwriting. Same sarcastic charm. Whoever it was, they were precise and annoyingly consistent. I'd narrowed it down to 3 suspects. The new marketing assistant too perky. Jeremy from IT too chaotic. Max, the designer too quiet. Or maybe, just quiet enough. Max intrigued me. He had that calm energy that felt like he didn't need to speak to be heard. His desk was cluttered with sketches, typography samples, and an army of highlighters arranged by color family. We'd only exchanged brief hellos. Once, he complimented my red boots. Another time, we both reached for the same office donut and awkwardly pretended it didn't happen. But beyond that, he kept mostly to himself. Which is why I couldn't imagine him writing snarky notes except, well, I could. There was something behind his eyes. That subtle kind of humor. Like he was always in on a joke he hadn't said out loud yet. Today's post-it? Me, thinking of replacing my morning scream with interpretive dance. Him, please notify HR before you do. Or at least warn Brenda. Brenda. Again. Poor woman didn't even know she'd become part of our sitcom. I replied without thinking. Brenda lives on decaf and dreams of power. I don't stand a chance. As I stuck it to the printer, I felt a ridiculous flutter in my chest. This was getting out of hand. Later that afternoon, I walked past Max's desk. He had his headphones on, but he looked up just as I passed. Our eyes met briefly. And I swear, he smiled. Not just a polite smile. The kind that said, I know something you don't. My heart did something weird. Like it tried to waltz, then tripped on its own feet. Nope. Not reading into that. Not even a little. But for the next hour, I couldn't focus. I kept replaying the moment. Was it a coincidence? Did he smile like that at everyone? I needed evidence. So I left a post-it with a trap. So tell me, reply guy, are you bold enough to sign your next note? It was a test. Because if he did, and it really was Max, I wasn't sure what I'd do with that information. But I was definitely ready to find out. 3 days. 3 days since I issued the challenge. 3 days since I dared reply guy to sign his next note. And? Nothing. No name. No initials. Just the usual delightful sarcasm and maddening anonymity. If I sign it, where's the fun in that? I like keeping you guessing. I nearly screamed. Instead, I grinned like a lovesick idiot in front of the printer. Again. You're enjoying this too much, I muttered to no one. Or to the printer, who at this point, felt like our therapist/counselor/witness. I had half a mind to hide behind the break room ficus and wait for whoever it was to drop off the next note. But I had meetings. And, you know, a job. Still, I couldn't help but keep one eye open. And that's when the strange thing started happening. Everywhere I went, Max seemed to be nearby. Lunch break? He was in the cafeteria, headphones around his neck, sketching with a half-smile on his face. Meeting room? He walked past just as I spilled water on myself and died inside. Elevator? He held the door for me, and when I said, "Thanks," he said, "Anytime," like it meant something. Coincidence? Maybe. But my gut was screaming, it's him. It's him. And worse? My gut was kind of hoping it was. That afternoon, I stayed late to finish a deadline. The office was quiet, dimmed, a soft hum of machines filling the air. I printed my final draft, and as usual, the printer blinked angrily at me before coughing up the pages. Then I saw it. A post-it. Not from me. Not addressed to anyone. It simply read: "Some silences are better when shared." I stood frozen. It wasn't sarcastic. It wasn't snarky. It was soft. Thoughtful. Different. And for a moment, I forgot we were just two office co-workers playing post-it tag. It felt personal. Real. And terrifying. As I gathered my things and stepped into the elevator, my phone buzzed. A Slack message from Max. Max W. Hey, sorry to bug. Did you get a weird glitch on your last print? Some of mine came out mixed with someone else's. Might be the network again. Me. No glitch. But the printer does enjoy ruining lives, so maybe? Max W. Haha. Seems like it. Thanks. He added a smiley face. A smiley face. Who even uses those anymore? And yet, I stared at it longer than I should have. Something was changing. Shifting. This wasn't just witty notes anymore. This was something else. And if Max was really the one behind them? Then maybe, just maybe, I wasn't the only one who didn't want it to stop. The universe must have a twisted sense of humor. One moment, I'm standing at the printer, waiting for the machine to do its thing, and slowly plotting its demise, and the next, there's a presence beside me, warm, calm, entirely too familiar. Max. The guy who, if I'm being honest, I'd spent the last few days definitely not staring at. He was holding a stack of papers in one hand, his usual slightly disheveled, effortlessly cool self. For a split second, I wondered if I was imagining it, if the cosmic forces of sarcasm and post-it notes had led us to this moment purely for comedic effect. But no. Max was standing there, casually flipping through the papers like this was just another ordinary Tuesday. I glanced at the printer. It was still malfunctioning. Perfect timing. Hey, he said, voice low but warm, like he was about to say something ridiculously profound. But instead, he gave me a small, amused smile. Looks like it's giving us both trouble. I blinked. Did he just? Was he talking about the printer? I couldn't even make eye contact. So instead, I focused on the printer like it was the most interesting thing I'd ever seen. Yep. It has this uncanny ability to ruin lives at the worst possible moment. Max chuckled, and that was it. That small, almost intimate laugh sent a pulse of heat through my chest. Something about it felt like a punchline we'd both been waiting for. But then, the next logical step, the inevitable question, fell from his lips, like he'd been rehearsing it in his head for weeks. So, he hesitated for a moment, then leaned slightly closer. You're the smart mouth, hey. I froze. He'd finally said it. The question. The one I'd half expected and half dreaded since I first started leaving my sarcastic notes. And suddenly, I couldn't think. Couldn't breathe. Was this it? Was I about to be exposed as the office's sarcastic queen with a mild obsession with sticky notes? I looked up. Our eyes met. His were softer than I remembered, almost kind. Am I? I finally answered, raising an eyebrow. Are you the reply guy? He nodded slowly, the tiniest smirk tugging at the corner of his lips. I might be, he said, sounding far too pleased with himself. I laughed genuinely, this time. Well, I'll be damned. I knew it. Max's smile widened, and the world suddenly seemed a lot smaller, warmer. A little more comfortable. But just as I was about to say something witty, because, of course, there was the sound of the printer jamming again. Seriously? We both stared at the printer, then exchanged a look. And then, like a synchronized dance, we both leaned forward and tried to force the paper tray open at the exact same time. Our hands brushed. I yanked my hand back, flushing, but Max didn't move. He just looked at me with that quiet, teasing smile. I guess we're a team now, he said softly. I raised my eyes to meet his, heart doing somersaults in my chest. It wasn't sarcasm that hung in the air between us now. It was something more, something genuine. Yeah, I said, trying to recover. A really dysfunctional team. He grinned, then reached into his bag for his phone. You know, I think we've officially earned that coffee now. I blinked. Coffee. Max, and me, together, outside of sticky notes and office banter? Right now? I asked, suddenly feeling both excited and completely terrified. Max raised an eyebrow. Why wait? We walked to the cafe around the corner like it wasn't a big deal. Like I hadn't just discovered that the mystery man behind all those perfect post-it replies was, in fact, Max, the quietly observant designer I'd been low-key, okay, maybe high-key, curious about for weeks. He held the door open for me like a gentleman from another era, and I stepped into the warm smell of roasted beans, vanilla syrup, and fresh-baked regret. Because suddenly I wasn't just Lena the copywriter, I was Lena the girl who flirted with sticky notes and now had to function like a normal person in front of the guy who wrote back. We ordered. He got a black Americano, of course, and I got my usual overly complicated vanilla oat latte with a shot of denial. We sat by the window, both of us pretending this wasn't strange and new and kind of thrilling. Max leaned back, fingers around his cup, gaze steady on me. So, he said, is this the part where we pretend we weren't falling in like with each other anonymously? I nearly choked on my latte. You're bold for someone who didn't even sign his name, I teased, trying to keep it casual, even though my insides were staging a full Broadway musical. He grinned. Anonymity gave me courage. You were pretty intimidating, you know. Me? I snorted. You're the one who started judging my coffee and threatening Brenda with HR reports. Hey, I was defending Brenda. She deserves to know you're planning interpretive dance meltdowns in the break room. I laughed loud, unfiltered, the kind of laugh that escapes before you remember to be cool. And he smiled like he'd won something. We sat like that for a while, sipping and talking. It was easy. Alarmingly so. We didn't just talk about work, we talked about terrible office coffee, our mutual love for old sitcoms, how he always wanted to be an animator, and how I secretly wrote poetry on the backs of receipts when no one was watching. He didn't even blink at that. In fact, he said, "That makes sense. You're a writer. Of course your post-its were poetic threats." I wanted to say something clever back. But for once, I didn't need to. Instead, we just sat. Comfortable. Quiet. The kind of quiet that doesn't feel empty. The kind that feels full of something. Back at the office, we returned to our desks like two normal co-workers who hadn't just gone on a semi-secret coffee date disguised as a printer truce. But something had shifted. I caught him glancing at me from across the room. Just a flicker. And when our eyes met, he didn't look away. Neither did I. Later that day, I found a yellow note stuck to my desk lamp. Not the printer. A new location. A new level. This seat's taken. Just saying. I looked across the room. Max was watching. And smiling. It had been 4 days since the coffee. 4 days of secret smiles, shared inside jokes, and post-its that now appeared in unexpected places on my laptop, tucked in my notebook, one even hidden inside a file folder I didn't open until late afternoon. That one said, "Stop working so hard. You deserve a donut." I bought 2. Things with Max weren't just flirty anymore, they were warm. Real. A rhythm we'd fallen into without even trying. But I should have known better. Because the moment things start to feel right in my life, the universe likes to throw a wrench made entirely of awkward timing and emotional landmines. Her name was Claire. I knew before Max even said it. The second I walked into the break room and saw him talking to her. Tall. Effortless. Wearing one of those blazers that says "I'm better than you" but also possibly French. She stood a little too close, touching his arm when she laughed, like they had a shared history because they did. And the look on his face? Complicated. My stomach twisted. I did what any self-respecting woman with feelings she hadn't fully admitted to would do. I turned on my heel and walked out before they saw me. He came by my desk later. I was buried in copy edits, but he lingered anyway. "Hey," he said, "careful." I didn't look up. "Hey. You okay?" "Totally." He hesitated. That was Claire. My ex. She showed up out of nowhere. Apparently she's in talks to consult with the branding team. I finally looked at him. His eyes were sincere. Worried. Soft in a way that made my chest ache. "You don't owe me an explanation," I said, sharper than I intended. "It's not like we're Lena." His voice was gentle. "I want to explain." I stood. Too quickly. My chair screeched back. I need to finish this," I said, motioning vaguely to my screen. "Deadline." He didn't push. Just nodded once, quietly, and walked away. I hated how disappointed he looked. I hated that it made my heart feel like it was folding in on itself. The next day, there was no post-it on my desk. Or the printer. Or anywhere. Which, fine. Totally fine. I didn't need the notes. Or the coffee. Or the warm glances across the office that made me feel like maybe I wasn't so hard to love after all. I was used to people leaving. I was prepared for it. At least, I thought I was. That night, I opened my notebook, needing to write anything to shake the weight off my chest. And there it was. Folded carefully between the pages. A yellow note. I didn't expect you. But I hoped for you. Every day. I stared at it for a long time. Read it again. And again. And maybe I cried a little, because sarcasm can't save you from vulnerability. Not when it's real. Not when someone actually sees you. And especially not when you see them back. The silence was the worst part. Not the awkward kind, the kind that happens in elevators or when someone doesn't know what to say. This was intentional. Careful. A silence that wrapped itself around everything and told me, you pushed him away. No yellow notes. No soft glances across the room. No playful sarcasm stuck to my desk or slipped into folders. Max had disappeared from my world. Physically, he was still there 2 rows over, sleeves rolled up, sketching quietly, headphones in. But there were no glances. No smiles. No spark. And it was entirely my fault. I'd shut the door the moment Claire walked in, like one woman from his past could erase weeks of laughter and invisible connection. Like I didn't already know that people have pasts that we all do. I just didn't want to be someone else's in-between. But maybe I'd made myself into one. I missed him in the small ways first. The way he always left exactly 1 extra sugar packet near the coffee machine because he knew I always forgot. The way he timed his printer trips with mine like a secret ritual. The way he made me feel seen, without ever asking me to perform for it. I missed the quiet of him. The comfort. And that was the thing, I never thought comfort could be thrilling. But with Max, it was. It wasn't flashy or dramatic. It was slow, steady warmth building underneath something that looked like a joke but felt like a secret promise. And now, there was just silence. By Thursday, I couldn't take it anymore. I sat at my desk after everyone had gone. The lights were low, the office humming quietly in its after-hours emptiness. I pulled out a single post-it. Yellow. Familiar. Like an ache I'd been ignoring. I stared at it for a long time, pen hovering, heart thudding like it wanted to stop me. But I wrote anyway. I got scared. Not of you. Of me. Of how real it started to feel. I folded it once. Twice. Then I walked slowly, deliberately to his desk. His sketchbook was still open. A half-finished design lay inside something romantic, swirled with ink, delicate lines that felt more like emotion than branding. I slipped the note inside, just beneath the edge of the page. And left. The next morning, I waited. And waited. I told myself not to expect anything. Not a look. Not a note. Not a miracle. But when I returned to my desk after lunch, there was something sitting on my chair. A small coffee. The kind I liked. And beneath it, a single folded note. My hands shook. You were never an in-between, Lena. You were the part I started waiting for. I smiled through the sting in my eyes. The silence broke. Not with noise but with something better. Hope. Friday morning came with a strange hush. Not the usual end-of-week buzz or Friday donut chatter. Just quiet. But this time, it wasn't empty. It was calm. And I knew deep in the middle of my ribcage that something had shifted. That the post-it I'd left, the one that felt more like a stitched-together piece of my heart than a joke, had landed where it needed to. And his reply? It wasn't clever. It wasn't sarcastic. It was honest. You were never an in-between, Lena. You were the part I started waiting for. I read it 5 times that morning. 6. Then I tucked it into my notebook beside all the others, the jokes, the deflections, the flirtations, and I realized, it was never just about the printer. Or the notes. It was about being seen. Known. Understood. I found him near the window, where the sunlight made his sketchbook glow. He looked up when I approached, eyes warm but cautious. Hey, I said. He closed the notebook gently. Hey. I sat across from him. No fanfare. No sarcasm shield. Just me. I don't want to be scared anymore, I said quietly. I don't want to hide behind notes or jokes or coffee orders. I want the real thing. His brow softened. You have it, he said. You've always had it. I smiled, then wide and a little breathless. You know, I said, the whole post-it war started because of that stupid printer. He leaned forward slightly. Best broken piece of machinery in the building. I was thinking, I said, trying not to fidget, we could maybe keep leaving notes. But, you know, maybe on each other's fridge instead of office equipment. He blinked. Smiled. That sounds dangerously domestic. Oh, I'm not saying we move in. I'm just saying. I might have an unused pack of pastel post-its in a fridge that looks tragically underdecorated. He grinned. And I might have the world's worst handwriting and a lot of things I want to say to you. I reached into my bag and pulled out one final yellow square, already written. You're still my favorite, smart mouth. Just thought you should know. He read it. Then looked at me like I was something worth staying for. Then, finally he leaned in and kissed me. Soft. Slow. Sweet. And better than any punchline. Our fridge is a mosaic now, full of ridiculous, heartfelt, absurd notes. Out of milk. But never out of love. Yes, I took the last cookie. Let's not fight in front of the plants. You make mornings better than coffee. And every Sunday, like a ritual, we walk past the old office building where it all began. The printer's probably still broken. But it gave me him. And if I'm being honest, that stupid, gem-prone, life-ruining printer might just be the best thing that ever happened to me. If this story moved you even a little, please like or comment, it helps more people find it. Subscribe and turn on the bell so you never miss a love story whispered just for you. We're building something special here, a space for stories that speak to the soul. I'm so glad you're part of it.